the biggest decisions and most important ones you'll make in terms of building your IB course timetable, because our math courses can be pretty different, and the level of rigor in math courses especially is very different depending on which one you take. So I encourage you all to listen to that when we get to it. So just as an overview, I won't spend too much time in this presentation talking about the overall IB philosophy. Hopefully some of you were able to make it to the presentation I had in November, and that focuses more on the overall IB program, and the slides from that presentation are available on our website at wss.ca/IB. And today's presentation, I'm really going to try and focus in as much on that grade 10 application and courses. And that said, if you weren't able to make it to that November presentation, just as a quick overview of the IB program, IB is an international program where there's IB schools all over the world, all teaching a very similar curriculum. And what IB really tries to do is foster global-mindedness in students, and really tries to prepare students as best as possible for post-secondary. So some of the ways that IB does that is through our higher level courses, where in higher level courses students start to take university level content to the point where they might actually be able to earn university credits for the work they do in IB. All of our IB courses, whether they are higher level or standard level, they build in big projects. We call them internal assessments because they're graded by the teachers, that are based around the kind of work that students will be doing at the university level. So in sciences, for example, the internal assessment is a big research project that students design on their own, where they ask the question that they want to research. Then they spend a whole month in one of our science labs designing the experiment and carrying out the experiment, and then they write a 12-page lab report on it. Right? So they do this in generally October of their grade 12 year, and again, it's meant to mimic the kind of work that they'll be doing in in a university level science course. So we build in as many of those kinds of tasks into our IB classes so that we prepare students as best as possible for post-secondary. One of the wonderful things about IB is the community in IB classes and in the IB program in general. Students spend a lot of time with the same group in all of their different IB classes, and they have the same teachers for 2 years. So that generally builds a really supportive community. There's IB field trips that IB students go on. Grade 11 IB students, for example, go on a trip to Oregon, to the Oregon Shakespeare Festival. And again, those are the kinds of opportunities that really help build this community. With all of that, universities have kind of realized that IB does a pretty good job preparing students from the transition from high school to university. And so what universities have told us is IB students succeed and do well at university, and so then applications, once their students are in grade 12 and are applying to universities, they are given some different application processes compared to non-IB students. So IB diploma students, for example, for UBC, have an entirely different application pool that they're a part of. So universities try to make things easier for IB students. And generally, after graduation, once our IB students come back to talk to their teachers, what they tell us is that IB was a pretty tough program to be a part of, but it was totally worth it because of all that, all those skills that they learned to develop while they're taking IB classes. If you are interested in more of this overall big picture stuff about IB, I very strongly encourage you to visit our IB webpage on the NWSS website, nwss.ca/IB. So for this year, applications are due on February 1st. So that is just a few short weeks away. Some of the important things to consider are up on the board there. So in the IB program, we have sort of an idea of the kinds of students that are going to be most successful in the program. And so what we recommend we'll still look at all applications. And part of the application process is also recommendation from teachers, because our teachers have a good idea of what students are displaying in their classes and what's going to help them be successful in IB. So as part of the application, the requirements are both giving us an idea of grades, but also again teacher recommendations. And there's a few questions that we get students to answer in those application booklets to give us a sense of why you want to take the IB program. Here at New West, there are two different pathways through IB. So we have the IB diploma, which is like the full IB program, if you will, where you're kind of doing all your courses in IB. And how that works is that you take one course from all of the 6 main subject areas, or actually the 5 main subject areas, and then a 6th course in either arts, or a 2nd course from either the Group 3 Social Studies options or the Group 4 Science options. For students who want to do the IB diploma, the guideline is that students should be taking 4 courses at the HL level or at the higher level. According to IB rules, it's either 3 or 4, but by starting out with 4 higher level courses, that gives you the opportunity to switch one of those to standard level if you're finding it too much. And by starting with 4 higher level courses, you have some flexibility as to which one to switch, whereas if in some cases you started with just 3 higher level courses, you might be locked into those. For diploma balance, what we recommend is that students take one of English, global politics, or French at the higher level. Our higher level courses have what are called Z-blocks, which in order to get the content necessary for the higher level component of those courses, we have classes either before or after school in either grade 11 or grade 12. And for English and global politics and French, that Z-block comes in grade 11, whereas in our math, science, and psychology courses, all those Z-blocks come in grade 12. And so it's advantageous to take those grade 11, at least one of those grade 11 Z-blocks, so you don't have before or after school classes basically all week in your grade 12 year, which is a lot. So balancing things by taking grade 11 Z-block course, which are again English, global politics, and French, definitely helps that balance. And then to round it out, you would take 2 or 3 classes at the standard level. The other option of how you can do the IB program here at New West is the partial IB courses option. So here what you would do is select a combination of courses that are suited to your personal interests. And so this is a good way of balancing things if you have very heavy obligations outside of school, whether it's through athletics or other major things that would add to the time you're able to spend on your IB courses. You might take just a few IB courses. Or if what you really want to do is take like English and political science at the IB level, but sciences and math might not be in your area of interest, you could just focus on a few of those. And what we have to then work out, and we would do this later on after the applications, is try to find courses that work in our IB timetable in what we call pairings. We talk about that more once your applications are complete. And the first of the courses that I really kind of want to zero in on is math, because, like I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of difference in the level of depth and rigor in the different math courses, and so the decision about which math course to take should be one that you do spend some considerable time on. And picking the wrong one based on your abilities and interests could actually impact your overall diploma because of just how challenging IB math courses can be. So here at New West, we have both math approaches and analysis, which is more of like a theoretical or pure math course, And we have math, applications, and interpretation, which is more of an applied math course. And who better to talk about some of our math courses than one of our math teachers. So Mr. Kirk Hovind is our math, applications, and interpretation teacher who's going to talk a little bit about that course, but also some of the differences between higher level and standard level math to help you make some of those decisions. Thank you, Mr. Kirk Hovind.
Hello. Hello. This is kind of terrifying. So I'm going to use ANA and ANI. So ANA, which is approach and analysis, like Mr. Korchak said, is a focus on what is pure math, and it's a little less focused on applications of mathematics, but more the theorems and the underlying principles at a very, very rigorous level in HL. Whereas ANI is a bit more focused on the applications and a bit more technology-based, but at the HL level it is still extremely rigorous. For example, when I looked at these curriculums, and actually I showed it to my brother who has a doctorate in engineering, the way he put it, which I think went really quite nicely, is that the ANA math is more the sort of math that you use in like a first-year engineering program, very theoretical and very rigorous, whereas the ANI math is more the math you use in the later years, it's more applied. So both, there is no easy option in terms of that, just one is more theoretical, one is more applied, one is more technology-based, that's the ANI. Another key difference is that the ANI program is more heavily skewed towards statistics and probability, especially statistics, and a little less skewed towards calculus, although again, for both in HL there's a heavy component of calculus, and hence you get credit towards university level math courses for that. Whereas ANA, there's less of a focus on the statistics and more on the calculus. But no one course is vastly different than the other, and so at the HL level, both cover all the key topics of mathematics that would prepare any student for first year university mathematics courses quite well. Just like I said, the ANI is more of a focus on applications and statistics, whereas the ANA is more on the pure math side. Lastly, for the SL, there is a fairly marked difference. SL for ANI is much less intense in terms of time requirements for the ANI, and hence that's the only one that does not require a pre-calculus 11 course, right? So all the others, for both ANA courses or the HL ANI, students should take pre-calculus 11 before their grade level. And that's just preparing them for the algebra skills and sort of rigor and pacing required of these courses.
Right.
Anything else? Yeah?
Right, and another way to think about which math course to select might be in terms of what your plans are after university or after high school. So, like Mr. Kirk Hovind there mentioned, engineering is kind of a good place to start, so we'll start on maybe the furthest right hand side there. For engineering, typically what most universities want to see is one of those HL math courses, either AA HL or AI HL. And like Mr. Kirk Hovind mentioned with engineering, you might start with that theoretical side of things, like what you would get in an AA math course, and then it pretty quickly shifts into applied math. And the work that engineers do tends to be pretty applied using their math skills. So math AI would be the choice there. Just about every university except for the University of Waterloo at this point accepts math AI HL for engineering, but if you want to go to Waterloo, you do have to take the math AA HL course. If we move further from the right towards the left, if you're interested in university programs that focus on that theoretical math, right? So especially things like if you want to do math at university, or if you want to do physics or astronomy, those kinds of university programs, math AA HL might be the choice there. As we move further to the left, things become a little bit more open, and if you want to take sciences that are more data-based, so things like biology and chemistry, where you're really having to take data from experiments and analyze them and model them, or pharmaceutical sciences, or things like forestry, or commerce and business, that again focus more on the data side of math and the the statistics side of math. Math AI HL might be a good course to take, as might be the Math AA SL course. Like Mr. Kirkhoven mentioned, Math AI SL is the one math course that doesn't have the pre-calculus 11 prerequisite, because that one doesn't quite get into the rigorous elements of math as much, if you will, right? The calculus in it is a little bit, there's a little bit less of that. And so that one, what universities want to see if you take Math AISL, that's a perfect one to take if you want to go to any arts faculty programs, and that includes things like psychology, political science, sociology, anthropology, or history. Right, Math AISL is the course to take there. And also by taking a course like Math AISL, even though it's still an IB math course, like the level of rigor in that one is a little bit more approachable, I would say, compared to the other math courses. So if you're interested in doing any of those programs after high school, I definitely recommend the Math AISL. Another option, if you look in that second column, if you're thinking about the commerce, business, biology, chemistry route, one thing you could do is do a Math AISL, but then also do a pre-calculus 12 course through summer school or online. It might be a little bit extra work, but that could be balanced out by having a slightly less rigorous math course. But those are the different options. What universities have told us is that for students applying into commerce or sciences, they want to see at least a Math AI-HL or Math AA-SL or HL. So again, it's a lot of acronyms. IB loves their acronyms, so I apologize for that. But again, Math AI is that sort of more applied, technology-focused math course, and Math AA is the more theoretical math course. One of the things I'll draw attention to here is the top of the slide, because one of the things I very often hear from parents is that they will take a course like Math AAHL to keep their options open when applying for a university program. But if you choose a math course that's not aligned well to your abilities or interests, that might actually end up closing those doors, because you might end up in a math course that's too hard for where you're at in your math journey, right? So again, why you should really be thinking about making as informed a decision based not on how well you think you'll do in math, but the evidence we have from Math 10 Honors and Pre-Calc 11 as to which math course to register for. And that's where we also really look for recommendations from teachers, right? So for a student wanting to take especially Math AAHL, which is sort of the most rigorous and most difficult of the math courses, as well as Math AIHL, I'd really like to see a positive recommendation from a math teacher for an application for one of those. The next group that I'd like to talk about is English, because there's also a thing to consider with the English course that you choose, because whether you take it at the HL or SL level, it actually ends up being a slightly different English course altogether. At HL, we have the HL English Literature. And the literature course is just that, like it's focused very heavily on literature. So it's a lot of reading books, short stories, and poetry. And again, the Z blocks for this one are in grade 11, which is a good thing because you complete that HL component entirely in grade 11, so it's recommended for that reason. But it's a course that, again, really requires some like love of reading and writing on your part. The other English option that we have is a course called Language and Literature, and this one we offer at the SL level. And this one goes beyond just literature. So the Language and Literature class focuses more on a variety of different kinds of ways that English is used in the world. So there's still literature involved, but it also looks at language in film and language in advertising, even all the way down to like how language is used in things like instruction manuals, those kinds of things. Language in social media. So it really has a more sort of diverse look at the way we use English in the world. That one is at the SL level. there's also quite a few different options with the language course. So students that want to do the diploma are required to do a second language course, and we have quite a few different options here. And the ones to be especially aware of are our Spanish ab initio course. Ab initio in Latin kind of translates to from the beginning, which means it's a course intended for students who have basically zero experience in Spanish. So if you are somebody who has taken Spanish 9 and 10, you actually can't take the IB Spanish course at that point because you're sort of overqualified for it. So if you are a grade 10 student who has grade 10 Spanish right now or next semester, and you want to take Spanish in IB, you got to drop your grade 10 Spanish course because we have to kind of play by IB rules with that. So you must not have Spanish 10. With French, it's kind of the opposite, where French SL, or we also are going to offer Chinese BSL. Those require some level of proficiency with that language. So for French, you would have had to take French 9 and 10 before you can take IB French. With Chinese, we're going to have an entrance exam to make sure that your level of proficiency in Mandarin is suitable for the Chinese SL class. French HL is for French immersion students. So if you have taken French immersion up until now and you want to do the dual dogwood, that's when you would take the French HL class because it goes into the literature and media studies in French to fulfill the requirements of the dual dogwood. We also have a pretty neat option called the Language A School-Supported Self-Taught option. So this is an option as a second language for students who are fluent in a language other than English. And by fluent, like you have to be like literature fluent. So you have to be able to read Shakespeare in the language that you're fluent in, for example, in translation, obviously. But you have to be able to read at that level, but also be able to write essays in your chosen language. But if you're fluent in, like this year we have students in Korean doing the self-study, we have a student in Japanese doing the self-study. If you do have that level of fluency, it can be a pretty neat option. And what that is it kind of mirrors your English literature class, where a lot of the same strategies that you are applying to literature in English, you then apply to the text that you're reading in your self-study language. And you work with our literature teacher to come up with a reading list and to talk about kind of some of those commonalities. So if that's something that you might be interested in, you can apply for that as well. Our group 3 are our social studies, or as IB calls it, individuals and societies. We have 3 different options here. 2 of them are on this slide. The next one's on the next one here. But the first option here is global politics. And global politics is a course that's all about how the world works in our world today, right? So the things that we study in global politics can range from big global issues. So I teach it, so I can talk about a few of the examples that I talk about with my class in global politics. So we're learning about some of the big things, like the war in Ukraine, the situation between Israel and Palestine, right? Those are the kinds of things we're talking about. But then we also look at how smaller things are also political issues that are important to us. So for example, over the summer last year, we got frosting on all of our classroom walls, right? They used to be fully see-through windows. We got them frosted, and so we discussed what went into making that decision and who the stakeholders were in that, the process that had to happen in order to get decisions like that approved and paid for and so on. So those are all the kinds of things we talk about in global politics. Again, an advantage to taking global politics is that the Z block is in grade 11. So by doing higher level global politics, it helps balance diploma quite well. Another option we have in the Group 3 Social Studies is psychology. And psychology offers a pretty wide sort of survey into different topics in psychology, ranging from social psychology to behavioral psychology and cognitive psychology, brain development, and those kinds of things. In our group 4 is our sciences, and here we have the 3 main sciences that most students take one of these, so it's your biology, your chemistry, and your physics. And then we also have a course called Environmental Systems and Society. And like I mentioned on the last slide, this slide can actually also count for a social studies class. So how that works is if you are somebody who really wants to sort of take a social studies path through IB because you're really into the humanities and like climate issues and those kinds of things, you could take, as your electives, you could take the 2 social studies options that we have. You could do global politics and psychology, and then you could take environmental systems as your science. On the flip side, if you are somebody who is really interested in sciences, you could take 2 of the major sciences like biology and chemistry, or chemistry and physics, and then you could take the environmental systems course as your social studies option. So you kind of lean a little bit more heavily into the sciences in that way. What the environmental systems class focuses on is, in order to make it interdisciplinary like that, you have this focus on the environment from both a scientific side of things, so it looks at how the atmosphere works and how you know, those like water and like geological processes work that affect the environment. And on the other side, it looks at the effect that environmental change has on people and on societies. And so it also then looks at how people have an effect on the environment, right? So you get that both scientific and social sciences view at environmental issues. Finally, we also have an option for students who want to do arts in the IB, and we have IB Visual Art. So this is also potentially an option for an elective. If you decide to take IB Visual Art, then as part of the diploma, you would take 1 science, 1 social studies, and this would be your elective. But what's kind of neat about this is that you really look at, in depth, both the history and process of 2 different forms of art. So painting and sculpture, for example, or photography and paint. I'm not an art teacher, so it's hard for me to talk about this one, but there's lots of different art forms, and you would focus in on 2 that are of most interest to you. And then for diploma students, what they are also part of is what we call the IB Core. So diploma students are also enrolled in a course called Theory of Knowledge, which is all about making connections to their other subjects. So in Theory of Knowledge, what we do is when we talk about math, for example, we don't do the equations, but we talk about where those equations came from. Or we talk about the ethical implications of math in different ways, right? So, you know, math can be used for things like building nuclear weapons, and so we talk about the ethical implications behind those kinds of things. Or we talk about, in terms of the arts, what the role of literature is in our society and those kinds of things. So that is what the Theory of Knowledge course is based on. CAS is something done entirely outside of the timetable, where students are required to engage in a variety of activities in creativity, activity, and service. So creativity is all about learning new skills, so students that play musical instruments, for example, or they build something in their backyard, or it's very open-ended in terms of the things that you can do, as long as it's kind of doing something that's slightly outside of your comfort zone. Activity is all about physical activity, so it can be something like playing on a team sport, if you already do that, or it can be as simple as setting a goal to get like 10,000 steps every day, right? That's kind of what forms the activity part of CAS. And then service is about volunteer work. So students often help run the clubs that we have in the school, or they volunteer at churches that they might be a part of, or seniors' homes, those kinds of things. The extended essay is also something done outside of the timetable, and again, this is one of those things that really helps build those university skills, where the extended essay is a 4,000-word essay that students write across both years on a topic entirely of their choice. So they can write their extended essay in math if they're really interested in math. They can write their extended essay in English or in global politics. And they're paired up with a supervisor in that field that they work with one-on-one on developing the question, working through drafts until the final one is complete. TOK is often a course that even students outside of the diploma, if they're taking partial IB courses, they might take TOK to make one of those pairings work with another IB class. And it also grants a social studies 12 credit, philosophy 12 credit for graduation requirement. So that's a bonus of the TOK course. Just to finish off, a couple of things that, as you're writing your applications, I've noticed that would help communicating here. Number one is making sure that writing is clear and legible. So if you're handwriting your application into the IB program, make sure that it's as clear as possible, because the email that you write on the application, for example, is the email that I use to communicate whether you've been accepted or not, right? So if it's not clear as to what that email is, that can be a bit of a problem. I often get questions about which teachers to ask for recommendations for that first page of the application, where it asks for the names of 2 teachers. Try as best you can to get 2 teachers of grade 10 academic subject. So try to get your math 10 teacher or your social studies 10 teacher if you can. In some cases, you might have one of those. In some cases, if your first semester this year is mostly electives, if you took RIM in grade 9, try to get your RIM 9 teacher to support your application. Failing that, grade 10 teachers are still better because they'll have more of a recent ability to communicate on what you're doing in your course. With this page on the application, what you need to make really clear is how you're getting prerequisites for courses that have prerequisites, right? So if you're taking math, AIHL, or either of the AA math courses, I need to see pre-calc 11 on here somewhere. Or if you're wanting to do physics in IB, I got to see physics 11 on here somewhere, right? So if it's in your scheduled timetable, either this semester or next semester, it should be on there. And then not, you should explain that you're getting one of those in summer school, for example, or online, or anything like that. So that needs to be clearly communicated. There are 2 course selection pages as part of the application. There's a diploma course selection page and a partial IB courses selection page. So please only fill out the course selection page of the program you're applying to. So if you're applying for the diploma, don't fill out the courses page. If you're applying for courses, don't fill out the diploma page. And make sure to include some alternates, right? Especially if you're applying for the diploma, there's that section at the bottom where I'd like you to pick a alternate class in the group 2, the group 3, and the group 4. Because we offer lots of classes. Every once in a while, not enough students sign up for one of our particular options, and we're not able to run that class, so it's very important that you include an alternate. So for example, with languages, if you sign up for Spanish and not enough students sign up for Spanish, you kind of need a backup. So please write down your alternates. And with the partial IB courses application, what I'm asking for is a ranking. So how you might fill this out might look like this. So say you want to apply for only 4 courses, you would indicate 4 up in that box there, but then you might want to rank more than just those 4, because again, we have to try to make your courses work based on the timetable that we have. If you're doing the diploma where you're taking all of your courses in IB, it's not an issue, but if you only want to take a few, we have to be able to pair them up the way that our timetable is structured that year. So here you want to take 4 classes, but to make the IB choices that you're making work, you might be open to a couple more. So you might want to rank a few more. Like in this case, the student might really not want to do English in IB, so there's no rankings there. But what they really want to take is Math AI. So with Math AI, they also want to take like the environmental systems course, and then rank a few others just to see if they would work. And finally, if you have any more questions about the application or the program in general, again here, I focus quite a bit on those course selections, less so on the strengths of the program overall and those kinds of things. So if you do have any questions about that, I am around in the Grand Commons for the rest of the evening, so we can chat there. I also have an email address that I tend to reply to questions as quickly as I can, and I also have a mailing list. So if you haven't been getting applications emails from me, you might want to subscribe to the mailing list where I send out updates. Sometimes there's a question that somebody sends me that might be one that I feel everybody would benefit from. I might send responses to some of those frequently asked questions, those kinds of things. I do that through the mailing list. I also have a link. If you would like to make an appointment with me, you can either set up a virtual appointment or an appointment in my office here at the school, where if you'd like to talk in some more detail about the program or an application, you can do that as well, and I'll send out the link to the booking system to make an appointment with me through the mailing list that is linked there. I also have quite a bit of information on the IB website for the school, which is nwss.ca/IB. So I've got a lot of slides from the various information sessions that I've done. I've also got the big handbook that has detail on all the courses and the program on there as well. All right, so that's it from me. We do have about 5 minutes for questions, so maybe instead of doing questions as a big group here, there is another presentation starting in 5 minutes. You can come find me out in the Grand Commons. All right, so thank you all for coming, and hopefully I'll see many of you back for